civil society groups that are organising things like food banks, or just helping people to eat together or pray together, do art and drama together. Obviously, the big problem has been around austerity, because both the Conservative government and lots of different Labour as well have been cutting community spaces. So not only is the idea of community being destroyed, but actually the physical community spaces have been destroyed too. So what one person can do in their area to really help is to help community organise. What does this look like? It looks like going door to door and knocking on neighbours' doors and seeing what do they care about in the area, what could be changing, and helping facilitate that happen. Now, we do that in the Green Party. We have something called a 60-second survey, which is when we're going to campaign in an area. One of the first things we do is go around and ask people what they care about, list those things, and then where those things align with our green values, start to campaign to get change to happen in the local area. And that can be a really powerful way of making change. So thanks for the question. The much shorter answer is join the Green Party and get involved at join.greenparty.org.uk. Local parties all around England and Wales who are always really looking for volunteers. We do a lot of election campaigning, and just as importantly, the campaigning that happens all year round to help out in the community. And that's ultimately how you get more people elected anyway. Okay, let me multitask. What are the Greens looking to do to become a more prominent party? Aside from the top three parties, Reform worryingly seem to be gaining a lot of people's attention. That's from Aaron Stannard. Thank you, Aaron. Yeah, I think first of all, to start off with Reform, they are gaining a huge amount of attention. I think it's always been really clear about exactly who Reform are, and that is separating the Reform MPs and the people who run the Reform Party from someone who might be thinking about voting Reform. So I don't think we can condemn Reform MPs in much stronger terms than pointing out that they are a group of millionaires who pretend that they're speaking for the working class, but are actually serving only billionaires. Their billionaire backer treasurer, that's Nick Candy, it was reported in the Financial Times he went off to Monaco, UAE, lots of places with offshore tax havens to wine and dine very wealthy people at private events. And then they have the temerity to pretend that they're going to represent working class interests. That being said, though, if someone is thinking about voting for Reform, I think it's actually the opposite reaction. Those are the people that we should be showing kindness and compassion towards, because they're frequently the people who have been absolutely let down by the political system. And being able to reach out to them, a very small group of them, when you speak to them on the doorstep, are explicitly racist, and I don't think we're ever going to win their vote, and nor should we seek to. I think we're just going to have to beat them. But I think a huge block of them are as concerned about austerity as anyone is. They can't get a house, they can't get an NHS appointment, roads are congested, there's that kind of sense that things are full, and that is absolutely not true. What is true, though, is there's been decades of underinvestment that means our cities, towns, and particularly rural areas too, often just feel run down and broken and things aren't working. And I think the way to deal with that is to actually invest in communities. So that's how to deal with Reform. But I think what we can learn from Reform is how kind of grabby they are in what they say and do. And that's because they're lying a lot of the time. They're lying, but they're telling a really powerful story. So I think what we need to do in the Green Party and the left more widely is to not lie and give misinformation. That's exactly the wrong thing to do, but be based in facts, be based in science, and tell a really powerful story through the actual evidence. And I think it's that storytelling that's really important, so people can really connect to the things that people care about and really associate and feel that. My hair is blown all over the place in the wind. Would I welcome Jeremy Corbyn into the Green Party? Thanks, Tally Flobber. I'm loving these names. So I think the first thing to say is anyone is welcome in the Green Party if they align with our values more widely of environmental, social, racial and economic justice. It's not up to an individual politician, not me as deputy leader, or even me if I am leader, to decide who can or can't join the Green Party. That's an elected body called the Green Party Regional Council. However, that's a really unsatisfying answer. So my hopefully much more satisfying answer is I'd love to see Jeremy Corbyn join the Green Party, and not just Jeremy, people like Zara Sultana, Nadia Whittome, Faiza Shaheen, so some people who aren't even MPs yet. A lot of the time I get asked about, what are we going to do to work with independents? And I'm really keen that anyone who is going to challenge a Labour politician or a Tory politician because they align with our values is someone that I want to see do well, because ultimately anyone's success who's challenging that duopoly is all of us, all of our success. if we want to challenge power and wealth in this country. So I think we need to find ways to work together. But ultimately, the biggest thing I would say is that I think the most effective way to challenge power and wealth and to amplify and support marginalised groups, and particularly the working class, is to join the Green Party, because I think we've already got a pretty strong party with 4 MPs, over 800 councillors, and now this leadership election where we're really having an important debate about the future of our party. And so I'm hoping that lots of people who are independent right now and the left more widely are listening to that debate and watching that debate, but not just standing as bystanders. Quite a few people have said to me, oh, if you're leader of the Green Party, I'd love to join the party and get involved. And I'm like, completely the wrong way round. Now is the exact time to get involved. Now is the time to get involved. Help us campaign, help me win. And then let's keep building this movement. And of course, if you want to find out more, you can go to backzac.com. Just before I go to other questions, it does remind me though, I'm doing a lot of speaking and I'm aware that I'm talking about community organising and then just talking at you all. This Wednesday, we're going to be having a People's Assembly. It's going to be on Zoom. Everyone is welcome, member or not member. And the idea is, rather than me setting the agenda or saying these are the things that I want to talk about, you guys set the agenda. So anyone who comes can propose a topic. There'll be different breakout rooms organised around the topics that are proposed, and then genuinely open sessions for people. Where are you taking us, Richie? Where places? Oh gosh, I'm now going on an obstacle course through. At least I'm not running through a wheat field. Sorry, I'm going to pause for a second just so you can see the situation that Richie has put me in. Anyway, that's happening on Wednesday, and you can sign up on the backzac.com page where there's more information. Okay, hey Zach, do you have any ideas on how to make conference more accessible to those who can't afford to or make conference in person? Yeah, it's a really important question. So just to back up from the question for a moment, I'm really proud of the way we make policy in the Green Party. It's one member, one vote, which means whether someone has been a member for 20 years or whether they joined during this Instagram live, just a subtle hint there for you, that means that they have equal voting power at our national conference, and it's members who make the policy. And unlike the Labour Party, where people make policy and then the Labour leadership just ignore it entirely, the Green Party policy is decided by members, and that ultimately becomes part of what goes in our next manifesto for the general election. So it's a really, really important part of the Green Party policy making process. On top of that, it's not just about policy, it's also about our national strategy and the way we work as a party. Should we turn around, Richie? No. Okay, we're going to carry on going. A way that we work as a party. I hope there's a metaphor here about getting out of the weeds soon enough. Never trust your boyfriend to lead the walk with the dog while you're doing an Instagram live. No, he's doing a great job. We don't know where we are. Anyway, back to the point. So anyone can join the party and get involved with the conference making policy process. The problem is at the moment though, is that getting to party conference can be inaccessible for people. So we've looked at different ways around that, like making remote sessions, making sure people can vote online and be involved with the process in that. And I think that's a huge step forward. And without being complacent, I think that is so massively more democratic than any other political party in this country. However, that can all be true and it's still not good enough. And actually we need to work harder to make it more accessible. So ways of doing things like that is for the Green Party executive to make sure that there is budget and resources available to make sure that we're always pushing how our conference is more accessible. That's a good moment to say that at these elections, you're not just voting for a leadership team, you're also voting for an executive team. This often doesn't get as much attention because the leadership is so out front, but actually executive do lots of things, particularly budget making or budget deciding, and it's a really crucial role. It's also external comms coordinator, the person who decides or at least scrutinises the communications team for the Green Party about what do our comms look like. And so when people say your comms need to be better, they need to be bolder, that's partly the elected people you get to talk, but it is just as much about the strategy around how do we communicate on social media and in the press. So take those executive elections really seriously. And what I'd really like to see in terms of the conference process is, what are you waving at me? Can Zach make back Zach Instagram account the admin or moderator? No, I can't multitask. Okay, give me a second. I'm going to stop talking for a second. Invite to join. How do I make someone an admin? Okay, here we go. Add as moderator. There we go. Back Zach the Greens, you're now moderator. what I'd really like to see at future conferences is, at the moment, the conference policy making process is very confusing, and at the first session I think it puts off loads of members because they come and there's lots of discussions about amendments and processes, and in that first session I would really like there to be a separate room at a conference where new members can be, whether, I'd be very happy to do it myself, here's me volunteering, or any elected Green or someone involved in the party who can sit with those new members and explain what's happening. There's been times where I've been in the session and been explaining to someone what happens, and understandably people turn around and go shh, because they're listening, and I think that's legitimate too. But to have an extra space where newer members can come, so that can be more accessible too, so everyone can get involved right from the beginning. Okay, I'll make my answers shorter because this is really long. Can we wrap up now and move on to a new question? Sorry if this sounds rude. Yes. Blatantly Eve, so many questions already. My question is, will you find a way to address all the questions? Yes, there's going to be so many hustings during this campaign that, and also I'll do more of these too, so it's not like this is your one chance to get your question answered. Top says that's a great idea, brilliant. If a mass member movement is needed, how will the Greens gain more members? Yeah, amazing question. So I think it's about being really clear about what we stand for and absolutely clear about what we stand against. And I think that's what attracts people to the party. Richie, I think this is a really bad way to go. Let's go back.
No, but we're so far in now.
Okay, great. I think it's about being part of the wider movements too. So I've been doing lots of We Demand Change, turning up on picket lines, and that's not about some kind of tokenism, but that's actually showing solidarity to the people that we seek to represent and the people who need that change. I think on top of that, it's about making sure that we're all over the media. So we know that the media often ignore us, although shout out, I'm on Laura Kuenssberg in the morning. It's not a one-on-one interview sadly, but I'm on the panel, which is cool. It's the first time I've done that. But making sure that when we have those media opportunities, we really own them. People know that the party care about the environment and care about the climate crisis, and they care about it deeply, and will never stop talking about that. But I think people don't know our policies on tackling inequality, or a wealth tax, or our commitment to making sure we're building council homes, or to electrify transport. All of these things, I think, that are really, really key for people to know about the party, are really important when we're using those media opportunities. I think that's how we grow the party. And second, a cheeky plug here, but we grow the party during leadership elections by people seeing what's going on, finding a preferred candidate, and joining the party because they can see the future in that candidate. So if you've not got involved with the Back Zach campaign yet, please do go onto the website. And we also have a WhatsApp group where we're having updates pretty much every day, which you can find at tinyurl.com/backzach chat. Okay, this is crazy. Will we form alliances or electoral pacts? I was actually on a panel with John McDonnell last week, and someone asked us this same question, and my answer was first, which is I wanted to see people like John McDonnell join the Green Party. And John's response was actually really interesting, and I'm going to steal the line from him because I think it's a really good line. He said that more than electoral alliances right now, he's really keen to build intellectual alliances, and I think that has to be the first place to start, is people who care about the same things that we care about, to make sure that we're all working together and we're joining together as one force. I'm just registering in my head like the fact that we just walked through all of those and it was huge.
Can I just apologise, because I had no idea that that was going to happen, and that was not planned, and of course it wasn't planned, and it's the first time I've ever walked through that, and I know this area. I thought I knew it pretty well, but
anyway, it was lovely. There was a nice obstacle course for my brain to like keep concentrating on talking while walking through those. But yes, in terms of electoral alliances, I think the very obvious thing to start off with is I just want people to join the Green Party. Our values are really, really clear, and absolutely no disrespect to people who are starting as independents or other parties or whatever else might be going on, but I do think we're pissing around a little bit too much. We have a nature and climate crisis. We literally had racist riots on our streets last summer. There is an inequality crisis. We do not have time to waste. There is a party right now that is building, that is growing councillors, that is growing MPs, that is having a leadership election, where I'm standing on a very clear platform of saying we want to stop reform, we want to challenge this government, we want to bring about redistributive wealth, and ultimately make sure that poor people aren't getting poorer and rich people aren't getting richer. And I think all of those things combined is exactly what this country needs. And so, yes, always open to talking to people and working with people, but actually I think some of it is a huge distraction at the moment, as opposed to going, join the Green Party. Okay, let me wait for the next question. Do you have plans to support the millions of people in the UK with long COVID and ME/CRFS who are neglected by the medical system and disbelieved by society? Thank you very much, Fran Haddock. Let me just start with how horrendous long COVID is. I know people, both friends and also some colleagues of Richie actually, who have suffered really, really badly with long COVID to the point that their lives have been absolutely transformed. These are people who are going about their life from day to day and just are not able to work anymore. There's a whole nother conversation there about what this government are doing around PIP payments, which are in-work payments. I was about to say benefits, but a disabled woman the other day said, can you talk about social security and not benefits, which I think is a really important point. That lots of people aren't even benefiting from it. It was meant to be a safety net. Of course, this isn't just for long COVID or ME, but I'll come to that. But actually lots of people with long-term health conditions and disabled people in the society who have been treated so badly by successive governments. And when we talk about housing, like, why can't all housing be accessible? Why can't we build a social model of disability where everyone is included from the very beginning, so it is co-designed with disabled people, rather than afterwards kind of having afterthoughts or just kind of nice or kind words. So I think that's more generally is making sure that we're working with people. Around long COVID, I think all the work has to be based on evidence and data. So it should not be politicians who are ultimately making these decisions alone. It should be led by healthcare professionals, people who actually have the research, who can again be doing this work to co-design. And I think this is where citizens' assemblies come into place and are really important. But those citizens' assemblies shouldn't just be, random people from wherever, but actually people who have lived experience of these things or have been affected by a family member or a loved one having long COVID or ME, and then looking to bring about change there. It's not easy because obviously there are trade-offs between how society works and how people kind of get about their day and get on transport, etc., but also with the need for people to be protected and to be included in society. And so I think this is an ongoing conversation, but I'm proud that it's a conversation the Green Party is having. Particularly, I'd encourage people to check out Natalie Bennett's work. Natalie is one of our peers in the House of Lords. Don't love the House of Lords, but that's a separate conversation. Do love Natalie Bennett, and she's doing amazing work there. And she keeps bringing this up. I've also brought this up with the Mayor of London in my role as elected member of the London Assembly around what is he doing to protect Londoners and to also look at future policy on transport. But yeah, there's no easy answers with this. I think it's just a conversation we need to keep having. But we always, as politicians and anyone who's elected, or in fact anyone who cares, who comes to a live like this, who cares about society, we always need to be thinking about those people who are least represented, who are speaking up but far too often being ignored. Jay Morgan. So one of my local parties said you are not experienced winning with first past the post. What is your response to this? My response to this is the amount of places I've been across England and Wales where I've seen Greens get elected, the day in, day out work I've done at action days to support candidates, to train candidates or coach candidates through hustings, to help with leaflet writing, to do the hard yards of door knocking and leafleting. It would be absurd to say that I don't have experience of first past the post. I think the second thing to say is, yes, I'm elected under proportional representation at the London Assembly, but the London Assembly also has a huge first past the post element. It just happens to be such a huge constituency that it is 3 or 4 parliamentary constituencies at a normal general election. So again, if anything, I have that experience of first past the post, but just an unmanageably large constituency. And the last thing I'd say on that is I think we've got to get out of this idea that it's candidates, councillors, assembly members, or indeed MPs who win elections. They're a huge part of it. They're the person up front answering the question. But actually, it's about teamwork. It's the team of organisers. It's for data collectors. It's for door knockers. It's for leafleters. It's for people who are preparing food and the people that I hang out with afterwards to help wash up after the action day. It's for people who are doing the phone calls. Campaigns, first past the post or whatever, about so many more people than the person at the top. And what this election is about is me saying this isn't about me. It's not about the MPs. It's about our seats across England and Wales. I'm very excited about Wales for the Senedd next year, where we need to go find those amazing candidates. But amazing candidates are not just found, they are developed. And ultimately we need to be in those communities right now, not just for next year because that's approaching quickly, but for future years and for the general election, to make sure we're seeking to find people who represent the communities that are as diverse and vibrant. as the party should ultimately be. And that won't happen by just allowing power to be hoarded in Westminster or for a small group of people. That will only happen when we spread power, just like we should spread wealth, and that's to redistribute it equally and to make sure that ultimately we have a fairer system. And within the party, that's always something I'm looking to do, is to lift those voices. Neurodivergent in nature, how would you address party funding issues at national and local level? Yeah, this is a huge issue, because actually what we discovered, thank you, what we discovered during the general election is that there's nowhere we can't win. If we campaign in there, if we have a strong candidate, and this is the key bit, if we have the money and resources to do that. Now, the way we campaigned at the last election in the 4 target seats, we got incredible results. We got 4 MPs, you probably noticed. But also, it's not an entirely replicable strategy in terms of how much we were campaigning there and how much money we were spending in those campaigns. So we need to start thinking about ways to balance the amount of money that we did need to raise with other ways of campaigning. And we know that is a national media strategy. The Green Party have not cut through as much as I would like us to do on the national stage. And we need to do, by being on TV and radio and indeed social media and getting our message out there, we need to do what no leaflet can do, which is by the time the door knocker gets to the door and the person answers the door, they already know about the Green Party because they've seen us on TV or radio, or they've seen us on social media, and they're already excited about us. Does that mean they'll vote for us straight away? No, absolutely not. And that's why a door knock and a kind of one-to-one conversation, there's nothing more powerful. But that will only happen in the multitudes that we need it to happen when we break through on national media or social media too. At the moment, the kind of hyper-local strategy is exciting, and I think, you know, there's lots of strengths to that, and we'll always be a party that believes in localism and supports people locally, but also in terms of challenging the government and winning the amount of seats we need to win, then yes, fundraising is going to be a huge part of that. And I think some of the media have tried to frame this as one of the other team is the politicians, elected politicians, and I'm the activist. Look, I have activist roots, I'm really proud of that, and I'll keep that up. But I've actually been an elected politician now for 4 years. I've chaired the Environment Committee for 3 years, I chair the Fire Committee at the moment. So it's not like I don't hold elected office. That's something I've done, in fact, longer than our MPs have been holding elected office. But also, it's that kind of steady as we go approach that I think the party is in at the moment, which is to win a few more MPs, which I want to win more MPs, that's fine, but just a few more MPs is not going to cut it. We massively need to accelerate our approach, and the only way we're going to accelerate our approach is by picking up our media strategy and making sure we're winning loads more MPs at the next election. Green Party is still very widely held. What are the ways to swiftly blow those stereotypes away? Sorry, I didn't see who asked the question, but I saw the end of the question. So, well, I guess I'd start with, you know, I'm vegan, I don't drive, I don't fly, I'm walking through fields at the moment. I'm about as a Green Party voter as they can come. But I always make the point, and I'm making it right now, that you do not need to be those things or do those things to be in the Green Party. Actually, ultimately, this is about system change and not individual responsibility. And I think the way to get that by is to just keep saying that, and to keep telling stories about it, about the fact that it's multimillionaires and billionaires who ultimately need to pay the cost for our just transition. And when we do have this just transition, and all I mean by that is making sure when we're moving to more climate-friendly things, that it's the cheapest option, that we're protecting workers' rights, that they have dignity at work, fair pay and working conditions, and that we are co-designing what the future looks like with the people who are most affected. And I think the way we get rid of those stereotypes is what I keep talking about, is the community organising, is making sure that people who are amplifying on social media and in the media more widely are our working class candidates, are our people of colour, or people who are, whoever they are, or whatever their background, are the people who are doing the work in their communities that is not as typical green work. Now, just to be clear, I'm really pro green work. If you're doing something on nature, absolutely love nature. If you're tackling the climate crisis, I'm with you all the way. And I'm really interested in what does economic justice look like, what does racial justice look like, and what does social justice look like. We know all of these things are interconnected, and they're all, you can't separate them and have a coherent conversation. They're all one of the same thing and embedded. But we really need to get that out to the public, because yes, they hear the Green Party, they think environment, fine, but let's also show them all the other things that we really care about and we're looking to change. How you doing, Richie?
I'm good. I'm glad we're not wading through tall grass anymore.
Cool. And Mick is all good too. I'm just waiting for the next question.
Treat, by the way.
Oh, he's had a treat. Good. That's what really matters. Green Party struggles with an image problem of not cutting through, being seen as a socially conscious, well-meaning middle-class party. What stories do you want to tell to combat this? I think it's show, don't tell. So I think people like Mothin Ali in Gipton and Hare Hills, for those who don't know him, he's a councillor in Leeds, was doing amazing work. And then during the riots last year, he was trying to put out fires. A video went viral online because Tommy Robinson, of all people, started to attack him. And I was so proud of how Mothin dealt with that with dignity, held his head up high and just kept out there working for his community. I can tell these stories, but actually I think much more powerful is using social media and again the media to get these stories across and to keep amplifying the stories of people who are doing work in their communities. People often say to me, oh, the party's not working class enough or it's not diverse enough. And I can understand why they say that if that's their limited experience. But also we must not erase people who I meet all the time in the party, all across the country, who are from diverse backgrounds, who are doing amazing work. And when they hear that, they're like, I'm right here. Why are you ignoring me? Why are you not seeing me? So I think, yes, the party nationally has a job, though, to make sure that I'm not just telling those stories, but actually you're seeing those stories regularly. And that's very much going to be a huge role, I think, for the person who is external comms coordinator, whoever we elect in the summer, because I really hope that, as well as platforming the MPs, they're already platformed because they're national politicians. But actually, how do we make sure we're platforming, actually not just councillors, but future councillors too, those community organisers who I'm really excited might be our future MPs and they're not even in the Green Party yet. But they're going to hear these stories, they're going to see things, and that's going to start a snowball effect of people getting more involved with the Green Party. And I'm really, really excited about that. Let's see the dog. Request for you, Mickey.
He's just on a pose.
Mickey. Oh.
You don't want to see that, do you?
No, Mickey. No, Mickey's too distracted on the sniffing men. Will I be endorsing standing alongside deputy leader candidates who are on the same page? No. So there's lots of people in the party who I really hope to be standing as deputy leader, and I've been encouraging lots of people. I'm not endorsing anyone because, and we've seen this a little bit in the leadership election at the moment. I think when people come from on high or in the establishment in inverted commas, to endorse people, I think that muddies the contest, and actually I'd much rather people make their own informed decisions based on their campaign, their website, their video, going to the hustings. I think there's going to be lots and lots of hustings and people make their decisions that way. That being said, I'll certainly be sharing work that people do who might be running for councillors if it's not a vote for me, I'm deputy leader work, but this is the work I'm doing in my local community. I'm already doing that a lot already because of all the answers I've been giving about wanting to amplify voices. I didn't see a question, I just saw absolute legend. Thanks, Jack Lord. More questions like that. Might not even have been about me. What do I want the Green Party to look like at the next general election? Amber J. Well, I guess I'd like to be leader. I guess that's the obvious start to that question. But more seriously, what do I want it to look like? I want it to look like everyone on the same page and absolutely determined on the same mission, which is we know that the Labour Party are either going to lose seats to Nigel Farage and the Reform Party, or they're going to lose them to us and the Green Party. And we need to make sure that in the Green Party, we are ready for that challenge. There are 39 seats where we came second place to an increasingly unpopular Labour government, and I think we're ready to pick up MPs there. But it's also not just a city versus rural thing, because actually I think that same message of inequality, whether you live in the city or the countryside, inequality hurts you everywhere. And actually I think we have a really important role to play that no other political party can play, which is both appealing to the cities and winning Green MPs there too, but also in those rural communities, standing up, but for the farmers who are being screwed over. I'm not talking about the huge farmers of the James Dysons of the world, but I'm talking about intergenerational farmers where the land has been passed through. They've been working really, really hard. The supermarkets have been screwing them over. Agriculture corporates have been screwing them over. And these are the same, it's the same mechanism of power as the young renter in a city who just needs rent controls. Obviously the conversation is nuanced in a different way in terms of how you talk about it, but actually that's what I want to see the Green Party looking like at the next general election, is ready to win lots of seats in the countryside and in the cities, and to have a Labour Party absolutely panicking because they know how bad Actually, I'm going to scrap that answer a little bit. So I was about to say absolutely panicking because they've done such a bad job. I think if we do this really well, we can start shifting the Labour Party already. Not that they're going to be great and that we're going to go tools down, Keir Starmer's got it, guys, or whoever the next Labour leader is. But that the Labour Party recognise that ignoring the left and ignoring the Green Party is no longer a strategy that they can continue to do. And actually, I think we can be winning before we're even winning more MPs. Obviously, the aim is to get more MPs into power, and ultimately one day I want to see a Green government. So this isn't just an exercise in pushing Labour, but I think for the immediate future, what do disabled people need? What do trans people need? What do people need who need social security? What do people who are unemployed and want to stay unemployed, but actually just want to enjoy their life with their friends and loved ones need? You know, all groups, whatever you think about, need a society that is more equal, where we're challenging wealth and power, and that's a vote for the Green Party. How can a councillor officially endorse you to ensure others vote internally for you too? It's okay, Danny. Love that question. Thank you very much. So there's a few ways you can endorse me. They're pretty much all on backzack.com. Zack is Z-A-C-K. You've obviously got it on the screen here. There are several ways you can endorse. There is a carousel where you can put your name and any quote. If you put councillor in that carousel, my volunteer team, it's an amazing time to shout out the volunteer team who are doing an incredible job at getting this campaign started. And about 20 days of campaigning, I've probably done about 25, 30 national interviews, plus the website and all the national campaigning, and that's all the volunteer team supporting me. Thank you so much. Love you guys. But yes, on that website page, there's a form that you can fill out where you can put an endorsement and your name. Please do put councillor, and then that will alert us. But also you can create your own graphic. So at the end of the page, there's a way where you just click create graphic. It takes you to a Canva. It's very easy to replace your picture, to put a quote in, and then put it on your own social media. If you're someone who's struggling with social media, I'm guessing you're not because you're someone who's on Instagram Live, but if you are someone who struggles with social media, then just email our team as well with a photo and we'll make that graphic for you. hello@backzack.com. Thank you. Tops, do we need more campaign volunteers? Amazing. These questions sound like they're planted, but they're not. Also, big shout out to Tops, who creates Black Canvas TV, which is a podcast of Black Londoners. I think Londoners. Yes, I think it's Londoners, talking about issues that affect them in the city and in the country more widely. She's also a political commentator. That podcast is finished, although it's brilliant, and she teased that there's something new coming soon, but I don't know what that is, but follow Sincerely Tops. But do we need more campaign volunteers? Actually, on a lot of things, we've got this now, in terms of the day-to-day running of the campaign is going well, but I'd encourage people to join our WhatsApp group, tinyurl.com/backzackchat. And then Narani, who's campaign manager, shout out Narani, every so often has been messaging to say, we need a volunteer to do this task. And loads of people have been coming forward, and that's been amazing. Don't want to be too gleeful on this call, and also there is not a moment of complacency on this because there's a huge task ahead, but I do just want to say thank you to everyone who's been so incredibly supportive, coming forward, offering ideas, offering help, because it feels really exciting. There's a situation going on with a dog in front of me. Hello. Thank you, Backzack for Greens, for putting that's an example of volunteer jumping on it and being straight there. I think that's Natalia. Thank you, Natalia. You're good, Richie. Good. Would I support a rent cap? Yeah, well, I mean, I support rent controls. So a rent cap is the easy kind of space to that. The party nationally supports rent controls, but I think a really good example of this, if I take my national hat off for a second, is in London, where my colleague Zoe Garbett has been doing amazing work on this, pushing Sadiq Khan on it. Sadiq was pretty warm to rent controls during the election, and then as soon as we got a national Labour government, has gone very quiet on them. So Zoe, again, show don't tell. She said to the mayor, why don't you set up a rent commission made up of renters, of various organisations, and get people together to talk about how rent controls might work and what a kind of good commission would look like. The mayor refused to do it, so Zoe did it herself. She got together with people like the Runnymede Trust, who are a race equality society, Acorn, the Renters Union, or one of the Renters Union, London Renters Union, lots of renters themselves, and held a round table to have discussions about what could the future rent controls look like in London. She's done that work and commissioned a report. You can find it online, and she just keeps pushing the mayor on it. with all of these things, I never want to be disingenuous. I don't think it's something that the mayor's going to pick up tomorrow because he's been so kind of opposed to it now in different ways. But I do think all of this just pushes the window and pushes us in the right direction in the end. He answered this in the interview with Owen Jones, I think. He said no, but had a really good reason. I don't know what that is. Can we do a wealth tax of 60%? If PAYE work income can be taxed 40 to 60%, I think the richest should pay more than that. Yeah, when we talk about a wealth tax in the Green Party, we're largely talking about taxes on assets. So at the moment, income tax is so much less than corporation tax, which means we are taxing earned wealth much more than we're taxing unearned wealth. Now that can sound a bit abstract, but I had an example recently where I thought this is such a clear demonstration of how absurd the system is. In the morning I met a group of migrant workers from a union called United Voices of the World, who are a migrant workers union, and this was a group of cleaners that I was speaking to. And then in the afternoon I spoke to the Patriotic Millionaires, who are a group of millionaires who are saying tax us more because an equal society is better for everyone. The Patriotic Millionaire said if he owned a building, he could be paying less tax on that building than the cleaners I met in the morning who were cleaning that building. I think that's such a crystal clear demonstration of how utterly unequal and how broken our taxation system is, and that is not distant from the rise in racism, the hate crimes on our streets, the education system crumbling. All of this is all interconnected with services that have not been funded properly out of political choices, and ultimately we can make better political choices. Will I be supportive of Green Party policy even when it's not seen as populist? Yeah, so I think, and that was from Jabola author, sorry. I think the word populist, it's interesting how different people have taken it in different ways. Nigel Farage and Donald Trump claim the word populist in the same way they claim the word patriots. I don't think there's anything patriotic about Nigel Farage. I don't think there's anything more patriotic than caring about your community, wanting to protect it from flooding or wildfires, wanting to make sure that everyone is treated with compassion, kindness and care. And when people arrive in this country, whether they're fleeing a better life from persecution, which is a very easy argument to make, but I would even make the argument whether they're an economic migrant who just wants a better life, they are paying so much more in social security, in tax than they're taking out in social security, if anything at all. So I think making these points about patriotism is a space where we have given far too much space to the right for far too long to claim that they are patriots when they are nothing of the sort. And I think it's the same with the word populist. So populist just meaning if you care about the food on your table, or heat in your homes, or how you might get to work, or whether you can hold down a job, these things are so immediate to your everyday concerns that the climate crisis can feel like the last thing on your mind. We also know, though, that the climate crisis both makes this situation worse because it makes poorer people poorer, because if they're a victim of a flood, for instance, they're much less likely to be insured. But also it is the same multimillionaires and billionaires and the same polluting companies who are making the climate crisis much worse. So when I talk about eco-populism, I'm talking about connecting the fact that we are challenging power and wealth, and we are protecting the climate and the environment, and we're on the side of ordinary people, the 99%. So when I say populist, I'm just talking about standing in solidarity with all the communities around the country. And often this gets called, class politics or standing up for working class. Absolutely involves the working class, and indeed should largely be led by the working class. And also, there's a group called the Precariat, for instance. An author called Guy Standing talks brilliantly about this. These are the people who are running businesses, but if just one thing went wrong or someone got ill, to come back to the disability question earlier on, everything would collapse and people would not be able to maintain themselves. And actually, the vast majority of the country are in this situation now where, unless they have savings or bank of mum and dad, and even then, they're in trouble. And so I think we need to find a way to connect with all of these people and recognise it's not about turning in on each other, it's not about fighting each other, it's about challenging excess wealth and excess power. To come to your question, though, I think more widely, and then I'll go to the next question, sometimes there will be Green Party policies that are unpopular in terms of how they're polled at the moment. A wealth tax is not one of them. It's one of the most popular things that people can be asked about. Everyone wants it. And it's interesting, even people who vote Reform want to see oil and gas companies taxed much more. So it'll be interesting to see what Farage does about that in the long term. I guess there are other policies, though, that aren't as popular yet. So we want to legalise drugs, for instance, or legalise and regulate drugs. We know when we poll people, people have concerns about this. And that's completely fine. I think that's a good example of where we need to tell the story. It needs to be led by health experts, doctors, nurses, people who are experts in the drug space. Again, I'm shouting out Zoe Garbett on this call a lot, but she is someone who worked for the National Health Service. She's now my colleague on the London Assembly, and she's been doing amazing work to build up consensus about what does... if you start from a place that the war on drugs is absolutely failing and has failed and is pushing people into more problematic behaviours and more dangerous behaviours, what does a better, more regulated system look like? Then that's a good place to start. I don't think that's necessarily populist, but I think there are ways to tell this story that people can really relate to, which is about accepting that everyone in their communities, particularly people who are struggling, who might then turn to drugs or alcohol as a way of self-medicating, one of the first things we could do is remove the cause in the first place and actually make sure people are properly supported. Please legalise weed, Zach. Spot on about building a class coalition. Would it be a Portugal type inspired system? Are we talking about drugs there? I'm guessing so. I think Portugal is definitely one of the better systems on this in terms of the way that they're moving. I still think, I don't know, I don't have the evidence actually, but I think in Portugal it's still not as popular as it could be. They're just doing it and it's gaining more popularity. But again, I think that's just about the stories you tell. I'm recognising that we are against a right-wing media, both in this country and indeed in Portugal, but particularly in this country where GB News is a 24/7 propaganda channel that is pumping out false narratives, and it's about combating those all the time. Your strategy for dealing with corporate media and their potential slander. That's from Oscar Morland. Fight back. I think it's something I've been thinking about a lot, that the place that I've always been most comfortable, and I think the Green Party are very comfortable, is standing with marginalised and oppressed people, and that's never going to change. And that really is the core of my work and where I want to focus both my work and the party's work, because I know we do that already, which is actually meeting with communities, hearing their demands and what they want, and then speaking with them rather than for them. I think we're most powerful when we are the conduit between the oppressed and power, or the oppressor in some cases, or often cases. What I think we need to get better at, though, and I'm always working at, is not giving in to power. And they will kick and scream, and we've seen this. We saw Peter Mandelson during the general election say that we'd become a bin fire of hard left activists and blah blah blah. I mean, the fact that Peter Mandelson is even still platformed despite his incredibly checkered history is an abomination in itself. So I got distracted by a dog again. Oh no. Oh, it's not behaving itself. Oh. God, back to Peter Mandelson. Yeah, the fact that he's still challenged, and people like Gary Stevenson, just within the first few days, the media were immediately going for him and trying to challenge him. And I think the only way you can deal with that is not to presume it's a good faith attack, to accept criticism, and I always accept criticism. I always accept we can be better communicators, we can be better people, but also to recognise when people attack you and it's not in good faith, one of the only responses you can do is go 10 times harder back, and make sure you just keep pushing for the marginalised and oppressed groups that you're seeking to represent, because they need us to do this and we need them with us. And I think when we're all together, nothing can stop us. But it'll always be hard, and it's important to recognise that. But politics at its heart is a struggle around inequality and a struggle for power, and we need to always challenge the powerful. Gary Stevenson is fantastic as a communicator. Yes, Matilda. I went for lunch with him a few weeks ago. We're meant to spend about half an hour together, and I think we probably spent about 4 or 5 hours chatting about the world and about the need to keep saying tax wealth, not work. And so I've just said it now, but I think it is really, really important we keep getting that through. Don't talk to Hassan. I really like Hassan, but anyway, I won't go down that. How will you help our struggling universities? Thank you. Universities have been so badly screwed over, and it's going to get repetitive on this call, so I'll give a short answer, but they're being screwed over by the same system that is destroying our environment, destroying our democracy, and destroying our communities, which is excess wealth, people taking far too much money in bonuses for CEOs and shareholders. And universities have completely lost, or the universities I speak to, the sense of what they were there in the first place, which was a love of learning, as opposed to being a factory machine for people just to get jobs when they get out, which we know downwardly mobile graduates often aren't getting those jobs anyway, and they're struggling just as much. So the whole university education system is broken, and I think that only happens when we start to, same with our other public services, recognise that things should be run for people and not profit. I saw someone else ask me what I think about common ownership or public ownership. I know, slightly different things, but public ownership is something we need to be pushing at every possible level, because ultimately we know, to come back to the populism point, this is how to reduce people's bills. This is how to make sure we have more functioning systems. This is how to make sure we have better services. It is privatization that has been the failed experiment. We should never allow the right to pretend that this is some sort of dangerous experiment that's never happened before. It was Thatcher, for instance, with the water companies, where they have the water boards, where they were democratically accountable, but then became Thames Water, Affinity Water, Pick Your Water, and they're absolutely, they're pumping sewage into the rivers and paying us extra for the privilege of destroying our natural habitats. That's disgusting. And I think this is one of the key areas where we can absolutely win, because we know the public are enraged with the fact that their bills are going up. They're enraged with the fact that our environment is being destroyed. And we just see politicians over and over again not being ready to make actual changes, but just to give kind of sound bites or odd words as opposed to actually taking it on. And I should say, if you go on my Instagram this week, I asked Sadiq Khan about him being on the board of Thames Water. This has happened in Paris. They brought water companies into public ownership. It reduced bills. In Berlin, they had a referendum and they actually voted to bring it back under the city authorities' control. There's no reason Sadiq Khan can't be on the board of Thames Water. There's just been a Water Act that's passed through government, which gives the power of Ofwat now to change governance arrangements. It's not just Thames Water, but actually every water company could demand that the elected mayor or elected councillors are on that board. Obviously, I want to go to full public ownership, but I feel there's like even a first step, just making sure there's actual people on those panels, including water payers too. It shouldn't just be about politicians. How will I increase the number of active members and volunteers, particularly in the north? Thanks, Greenish Karen. I am Mancunian originally, so it's something I'm very passionate about anyway. Yes, there's lots of things I can do, but my honest real answer is that the north are doing really well themselves in the way they're doing it at the moment, which is to get out there, to be proud, to be loud, to be working in those communities. As deputy leader, I've spent a lot of time in the north in the same way that I've spent time in Wales, in fact everywhere, because I know the importance of visibility and I know the importance of visiting to support. But actually on those odd days that I'm supporting, I know it's not my work that's increasing those members, it's the work that all those members and volunteers are already doing in those areas. And I think continuing to build through communities, I think not expecting people to come to us, so local parties not expecting people in the community to necessarily come to a local Green Party meeting, but actually whether it's the mosque or the church or a non-faith space, actually saying, can we come to you, can we give a talk, can we hold a round table or a circle to find out the things you care about and how we're campaigning about them in the Green Party. I think that's how we're going to affect change, but I think that particularly works in northern communities. Well, it works anywhere, but I think the north have a particular history, whether it's the suffragette movement, whether it's the birth of the trade union movement, of political change and of people gathering together and organising, and I think that's going to make all the difference. Hugh's face, do I have an allotment? Oh good, I'm glad that I can push back against the green stereotype, because I do not have an allotment, and I'm also not particularly green fingered either. Also hilariously, for an Ask Me Anything, people told me that AOC or other politicians often do like cooking for their Ask Me Anything, so they multitask by cooking something and answering questions. I am the worst cook in the world, and Richie is one of the best cooks in the world. And but I didn't think it was the best vibe for me to be answering questions while Richie was just cooking, so that's why we borrowed a doggy instead. It's been a very lovely walk. Okay, I'm going to give it a few more minutes because we're coming to where we're going to drop Mickey off soon. Employee run industry, please. Yes, I mean, it comes back again to co-design, I think, about making sure that the people most affected, and particularly the people with the least power in any system, are the people who are able to co-design the system rather than coming down from the top health. How do I take care of my mental health with all the haters, especially if you're leading the party? Are there that many haters? I hope not. Partly, I think if I'm not being attacked or I'm not being criticised, then I'm not a challenge to anyone or anything. And that's not just me, it's the party as well. I think when the party is doing its most effective work and being the best it can be, that is when we are criticised the most. And I think an example of this was last year when we were calling the genocide in Gaza and encouraging people to support the amendment that stopped or would call for a ceasefire in Gaza, and Labour MPs who didn't vote for it, we put out a graphic with every single Labour MP who abstained on that vote, and the uproar from the establishment that said if there was a murder or a horrible a murder, we would be responsible. And then just the names of the MPs, how they vote or don't vote, is publicly accessible. It is available, and we should take MP safety really seriously. But at the same time, that cannot be something that stops people knowing how their representatives vote. And there's a very strong feeling in this country around all of these issues because there's a genocide happening, and our government is not just complicit but an active participant at this point by selling arms. Anyway, that's a long way of saying, though, it was really, really demonstrable to me then how much the establishment were pushing back at the Green Party. But yes, since I've announced my leadership bid too, some of the kind of areas of social media that push back don't worry me at all, because actually every single hater, it just, to be honest, brushes off me, and I just think we know we're being effective, and that's why they're coming for us. So keep challenging. So that's not a toxic answer. If there are people on here who are candidates who are doing things for the political parties, it's also fine for it not to brush off you. It's fine to need to take a break. It's fine to need to take some moments to breathe and make sure that you're looking after yourself, because ultimately this is a marathon and not a sprint, and just make sure that you have people around you. Many disabled people feel ignored by the Greens on assisted dying. As leader, will you listen to our concerns? Thank you. Sorry, I missed who asked that, and that feels important. Rose. Assisted dying is something I've been thinking about a lot. Richie, my boyfriend who's with me, works in a hospice, so we think about dying every single day through conversations we have, and it's something I've been not front-footed to wade in on, because I recognise the importance of having the meetings that MPs should be having with people, being in the chamber and listening to all of the debates, and working with people both affected and hospices and people working in palliative care to look at what decision to be made. All of those caveats together, when I look at this bill and I see that not a single disabled person's organisation is supporting the bill, that gives me huge concern. And I think at present, although I absolutely support the principle of assisted dying, I think, again, we need a citizens' assembly of people who are affected or have had loved ones affected, who can co-design a bill that works with the safeguards that are needed to make disabled people and disabled people's organisations be able to say this is something we can support. But at the moment, we're not seeing that situation. We're seeing the complete opposite situation, where people are saying there's huge safeguarding concerns, and we're not being listened to, and we're being ignored. So I can't give you a definitive answer, because the real genuine answer is I would need to sit in the chamber and listen to the debate on the day, having done the consultation with people affected. But as it stands right now, I wouldn't be able to support the bill. But I do support the principle. And that's a really, really difficult, nuanced thing to talk about. And to be able to hold people with compassion and care. And I think it's important also, anyone who comes to a different conclusion, that the conversation and dialogue remains open. It's also important that things all happen within a context, and at the moment we're in a context where we have a Labour government slashing social security for disabled people, general austerity and attitudes towards disability that are so medieval or so Victorian, that I can completely understand why disabled people feel so strongly about this. And I think, to come back to a theme that I've been speaking about this entire time, we need to listen to the voices of the most marginalised. And I don't want to describe disabled people as vulnerable, because often they're the most resilient people I know, but to recognise in a power structure that makes these decisions where they could be held to feel like a burden or put under undue pressure without the safeguards that are necessary is an unacceptable situation. I was going to finish here, but this feels like a very somber place to finish, so I'll wait for other questions. Are you hoping to stand a Green target constituency at the next general election? Yes, absolutely. I'm planning to be in the next group of London MPs that we're going to send to Westminster. And I say group because I don't think in London it should all be based around one person. I think there are lots of places we can win. In fact, of those 39 seats where we came second in place across the country, 19 of them are in London. Now, that's not just about having a London strategy. We absolutely must see targets in the north, and indeed in Wales, and obviously the south east and south west and the east are all doing very, very well too, and Yorkshire, which are including the north. I'm not specifically saying what seat it is, partly because we have democratic processes, and I would need to be selected as any other candidate would need to be, but also I want to really encourage us to think about a team of MPs, and actually when other people are ready to be selected, that's when I'd really like to have that conversation. But absolutely, part of my candidacy for leader is to be one of the next MPs who goes to Parliament. Ironically, when Caroline Lucas endorsed Carla and Adrian at the last election, her whole argument was that our leadership team should be made of people who aren't MPs, who are going to be MPs next time. Because now we've got 4 MPs who already have national platform, they already have profile. This is about who are the 3 new people who will also be sending to Parliament with them, with a much bigger group. I'd like to be one of those, and I also think whoever's elected deputy leader, or the 2 deputy leaders, if I'm elected, should definitely be people across the country too, who will be part of the next cohort of MPs. And that's so bloody exciting, because it's time for new voices, new faces, new profiles. This is no disrespect to anyone in the Green Party who's been working hard and been profiled for a long time. They've really helped build the party up to where we are now, but it's a different moment now, and in this different moment we can't keep looking back to history. We can't say we're not welcoming or accepting new people and new ideas. That's the whole point of a political party, is to convince people who are not in your camp straight away to join, to say, actually, I can see how you've got the right ideas, or the better ideas than the others, and I can see how I can work with you to grow the party and ultimately to win more councillors, win more MPs. And I really think that's something we can do. And of all the things, it comes back to a mental health question a little bit, of all the things that keep me charged, is that I just know this is going to happen. It's already starting to happen. It's just we need to accelerate it so fast, because people in our country do not have time for the Green Party to be slow about it, or to be incremental about it, or to focus or obsess about small details, as opposed to going, what is the major change we need in this country to make a difference? It is 1 minute to 5. So on that, I am going to wrap up. Just a few quick things. Thank you so much for people who have watched this. I've never done an Ask Me Anything before, so I'm definitely taking feedback, and I'll look through the chats later about whether walking was helpful or not, whether I need to do another activity or just sit down next time. Thank you very much to Richie, just for being an amazing boyfriend all round, but also just for being with me for... basically, I just didn't know if Mickey was going to do something odd or not, and I was just like, I don't want to be doing a live stream and dealing with the dog going rogue. Mickey. Oh, say hello.
Say goodbye.
Oh yeah, bye. He's not interested. He's like, it's just too much Green Party chatter for me. He votes Green, I'm reliably informed. Please do check out the campaign at backzac.com. As I've said, there's a WhatsApp group on there. There's going to be lots more of stuff coming up, and we're going to be highlighting all the kind of key stuff on that WhatsApp group. There's also a link tree, if someone could pop that in the chat. Link tree is pretty much just all the interviews that I've done over the last 2 weeks, or the kind of big ones, so you can catch up on some of the things I've been speaking about. I am on Laura Koonsberg in the morning on the panel. The interview she's having is Angela Rayner and Kemi Badenoch, so it's quite a good morning to be on. I'm sure I'm going to have things to say about, I think I'm speaking just after their interviews, which is a really, really good space to be able to do that. I just filmed an interview with Middle East Eye that was particularly around international politics, but particularly around Israel and Palestine, but more widely about Jewish and Muslim solidarity in this country. I think, if I say so myself, it was a really good interview. That's going to be released, I think, in the next week. Also just did an interview with Turn Left Media. That's Curtis Daly. Big shout out to Turn Left Media, support independent media. That's going to be coming out shortly too. And interview with Ali Milani and Zoe Greenwald, which I think is out next month. So there's loads and loads of stuff coming on. Oh, and I'm on Jeremy Vine next week as well, on the morning show on Channel 5. I'm listing all of these because part of the point always is people say the Green Party don't get enough media. And I think what I'm demonstrating that is, if you've got something really clear to say, where the media go, I get it, you will get platformed. And that's why I'm getting platformed so much more than I think the party has been in the past. And I'm looking to continue to do that too. And then other things to say. Yes, Wednesday night, the People's Assembly. So I talk a lot about community organising. I talk about a lot about listening, but the nature of an Instagram live means it's very difficult to walk, talk, read the comments and listen. But on Wednesday, we're going to be having a People's Assembly on Zoom from 6 till 9 p.m. I'll explain on Wednesday the kind of rules of engagement, but it's pretty much you guys set the agenda, you decide what conversation you want to be in. You're not stuck in one conversation the whole evening, so if you go for a little bit and then think, actually I want to dive into another conversation, that is all welcome. And then with that, we're going to be collating feedback. It's really for two conversations. It's one, both about my campaign and ideas for what could be happening on this campaign and how we can use it as a moment to grow the party, and to contain those kind of relationships with the broader left, to grow those relationships with the broader left, and make sure that we're working towards that. But also, without being presumptive, if I'm elected as leader, where does the Green Party go next? How do we continue to grow? How do we get out there and make sure that every person in this country knows what the Green Party stands for? So thank you all so much for being here. We're about to drop Mickey off. Say bye, Richie.
Bye, Richie.
See you later, guys. Thank you.